Ladies and gentlemen, please welcome your host, Jonny Lipsham.
Good evening, everybody. Welcome to another Sunday Night Live with me, Jonny Lipsham, over at jonnylipshamstudios.co.uk here in Edinburgh. I hope everybody is doing well and has had a good week. We've had a really great week. It's been a busy one, but been really cool. Lots going on, especially surrounding kind of all the move and everything else. So we're moving forward with the process of purchasing our new home, and hopefully that will be completed fairly soon. We're just waiting for the mortgage to be approved. Over here, it can take anything between 4 and 6 weeks before the mortgage actually comes through as approved. So we got to wait for that. But other than that, everything is looking pretty good. We went and took a look at the property on Saturday to basically see how far it's got with the build, and it's looking pretty good. There's still scaffolding up and stuff, so you can't really see very much, but they've made significant progress anyway. So that's pretty exciting. So yeah, lots going on. And Marcos says, Jonny is my second favorite YouTuber. Well, thank you very much. That's very kind of you to say so. But with regards to my channel, there have been some changes that have taken place, and I put out a community post this weekend explaining kind of what's going on, really. So for those of you that haven't seen that community post, essentially the decision I've reached is to no longer monetize this channel. So you'll notice that the super chat button is no longer there on the chat. It's gone because I have demonetized my own channel. And there's a good reason for it. And that is, my channel really wasn't making much in the way of money, to be honest. And the way that YouTube are now changing things with not only regarding their algorithm, but also the way that you have to, what they do now is, I think it starts in June, but from, I think, June the 21st, you have to declare your income from your YouTube channel as taxable income to the United States Federal Reserve. I'm not American. I have American family, I have American relatives, but I am not American. I'm not an American citizen. I am a citizen of Scotland, a citizen of the United Kingdom, and I pay taxes to the United Kingdom. So don't really see why I need to contribute to the United States Federal Reserve as much as you guys are over, you guys that are over in the United States are awesome people, and I love you very much. But basically, they would be looking at taking like nearly 30% of my YouTube income, which is not a lot anyway. And so I thought, you know what, what's the point? So I demonetized. Now, you will see at the top of the chat over there somewhere that there is a pinned post. And in that pinned post is a link to my PayPal. So for those of you that actually really like super chatting me and donating and giving me generous gifts, those of you that like to do that, you can continue to do that over there. And I will see I won't be able to necessarily see it live, unfortunately, in the show. I'll need to figure out a way to actually do that. But yeah, I will need to figure out a way to make that happen so I can see your donations via PayPal live. I don't quite know how that's going to work. However, those of you that do send me something via PayPal, I will get an email notification and I will be able to write you a little email back by way of a thank you. So those of you that want to do that, you can do. But there's no obligation on anybody to donate anything or pay for anything for my YouTube content. So yeah, so I had been looking at the possibility of doing channel memberships, but that's kind of not really something I can now do, seeing as I've now demonetized my own channel. And it just means that my channel is just a bit easier to operate, because it means that there's no pressure on me to make content that's going to get lots of views and is going to earn me lots of money, because that really just isn't going to happen. And really, it seems to be, from looking at the performances of my videos, it seems to be only my kind of review of new updates or my demonstrations of new updates for Studio One that seem to get the lots of views. Most of my other content doesn't really get a whole lot of views, so it maybe makes, I don't know, $5, $6 a month, tops. But when I put out a video showing a new version of Studio One, that income goes up from the ad revenue and all of that, my share of the ad revenue. So that improves, that situation, but I have to kind of weigh it up whether it's actually worth it or not. And my conclusion has been, really, it's just not particularly worth it for me. So that's kind of the decision I've taken. We'll see kind of what happens. We'll see how it goes between, I'll leave it for maybe 9 months, and we'll see what the benefits are of not monetizing my channel versus monetizing it and kind of everything else. Especially as, YouTube are going to take 30% of anything that I make anyway. It just doesn't make particularly a lot of sense. So I hope you guys understand, but I really wanted to explain that and get that out there to you guys. And kind of, by all means, please do, comment what you think in the chat, so that we can discuss that. I would appreciate your thoughts and what you think and your wisdom, or whether you think it's a bad idea and maybe I should just remonetize my channel. I can do that. That's not hard. But yeah. All right, so let's go and see. We don't have very many people here tonight. We would normally have like 25 or 26 people here, and we have 13 at the moment. Unlucky for some. So yeah, we're a little low on numbers. Don't quite know why we're so low on numbers, because I've done everything that I normally do to advertise the show. So anyway, for those of you that are here, I'm very glad that you are here. Those of you that are watching but haven't contributed in the chat to say at least hello, please do. I always love to read what you guys have to say and answer your questions on Studio One, recording, mixing, mastering, making music in general, music theory, harmony, melody, rhythm, whatever you guys have that's a question, we will answer it so long as it's related to those subjects. No political posting, please. If you want to say something about my kind of self-demonetization, that's great, but please don't make it party political or anything like that. Because that's not what this channel is all about. This channel is not about politics. All right, so let's go up and see who's here. Thomas is here. Thomas over in the Philippines. Kevin is here as well. Billy Morgan, Marcos, Bill Shepherd, Garen over in Australia. G'day, mate. And James Jonny is here as well. He says hello all. And Bobby Booth. We can start the show now. Bobby is here. But we have like only 13 people here. So if you know people that would normally be here, please go on social media and give them a reminder, and maybe even give them a wee link to the show so they can just jump straight in. That would be helpful. But yeah, let's get the show started. Now that I've kind of all got that explanatory thing out of the way about monetization and all of that stuff. Let's get your questions in the chat, and we'll get this show on the road. That would be cool. Bobby says Facebook isn't used that much. I have noticed. Yeah, I normally put out an ad on pretty much all of the Studio One Facebook groups that I'm a member of, the ones that will let me do it. There are some Facebook groups, Studio One Facebook groups that just won't let me do it. They delete my ads and they send me a message saying, please don't do that. But most do. So if you're a member of the Persona Studio One group, which is by far the biggest, and it's actually endorsed by Personas, if you're a member of that group, hopefully you've seen my advert there. If you're a member of Home Studio Trainer Facebook groups, the two that we have, you should see my ad there as well, hopefully. But yeah, we don't have a whole lot of people here tonight, so this might actually be a short show. Yeah, let's get your questions. Anyone got any cool questions? You guys normally come up with something very cool. So, Billy says, gonna chillax, listen to JL and watch NASCAR. Oh, NASCAR. I love NASCAR. NASCAR is cool. And what's really cool about NASCAR is you only have to turn the wheel one way. So you go straight and then you turn left. You go straight and then you turn left. You go straight and then you turn left. And you keep doing that for about 500 laps. And I'm not saying there's not any skill to it, because there most certainly is, because the speeds that you're going at and how close the cars are to each other, there's definitely skill there, so you don't kill yourself. Mika says, hello all, hope everyone is well tonight. Mika, very glad to have you here. Garan says, not sure if you can help me out, but I'm chasing down some decent drone/texture loops at a reasonable price. Any ideas? I don't really. It kind of largely depends upon the style of music that you're talking about. There are lots of different types of drone. For example, Indian music has different types of drone, either provided by reed instruments or by woodwind instruments, or most typically provided by the sitar. The low 2 or 3 strings of the sitar tend to be the first thing that's played before any other harmony or melody is played on the sitar. And that provides a kind of drone around which most Indian classical music is written. So, and then of course there's traditional Scottish music, bagpipe music, where you have drone pipes. There are usually 2, sometimes 3 drone pipes on bagpipes, and they are just played throughout. So yeah, it kind of depends. Part of me, although I am Scottish, part of me hopes there are not any bagpipe sample packs out there. That would annoy me. Another instrument that I had not really thought of, but probably should have thought of, is didgeridoo. There are plenty of didgeridoo sample packs out there that you can get your hands on and make use of. But yeah, it kind of depends upon the style of music and the sound that you want for a drone, because you can use anything to provide a drone. You can use a synth pad. You can just use the bass notes of the piano. Whatever you want to do for a drone. I mean, drones don't have to be low; they can be high as well. This is where kind of drones kind of tend to cross over into something that we call pedal points. And a pedal point, if you don't know what a pedal point is really kind of a bass note, and you have the chords changing over the top. So there's the pedal point there. It's the C, the sun changing. But you can also have what we would call an inverse pedal point, where the note is up the top and the chords change underneath. But yeah, it kind of depends upon the drone that you're going for. Let's see. Mika says, do you or we have to stick to traditional placement of instrumentation? Is there a reason to stick to old school? A traditional placement of instrument. Are you talking about instrumentation in the mix, or are you talking about from an orchestrational or arranging point of view, Mika? If you could expand upon that just a smidge, that would help me kind of provide you with an answer that's really going to help you. DJ Vivaldi is here. He says, "What's up?" What's up to you too, DJ? Good to have you here, DJ Vivaldi. Vivaldi, by the way, is one of my favorite Baroque music composers. I love his music. Billy says, would hate to see Sundays go away. Saturdays already suck with no live Studio One shows, but do understand financial obligations. It'll work out, don't stop believing. Yeah, I'm not going to stop the show. That's the other thing I should have said. To clarify, all I have done is just remove monetization from my channel. I'm still going to be doing this show, and for as long as you guys want me to do this show, and for as long as I still get at least 20 people here, I mean, we've got 15 right now, which is on the low side, but, you know, we'll see how things go over the next several Sundays. And, you know, if viewership is starting to just generally, if there is a trend that viewership for Sunday Night Live is dropping off, then I'll have to reconsider whether I should continue doing it. But for right now, the Sunday Night Live is not going anywhere. I'm still going to be doing it. And even once we've moved house, I'm still going to be doing it. And actually, I will have a whole raft of new videos on the new studio setup, for sure. And the new room. And I may even do just kind of like an overall house tour. I have to talk to my wife about that, what she thinks, because she might not want me to do a house tour. But certainly, in general terms, I'm definitely going to do some content for moving and getting the studio set up and everything else. But yes, so Sunday Night Live is not going anywhere for now. And I will continue to make occasional videos, like I recently made a video on doing drum replacement, a super quick way you can use the bend tool to detect your transients, and then just, you know, you don't have to do very much more than just drag the detected audio down into an instrument track, and then just map that note to where you want it to be, and you've replaced the drum. So I did that video, put that out just recently. That's kind of going quite well, which is cool. Let's see. Thank you, Mika. That's very kind. Font of information. I like that. Font. Am I a font or a fount of information? That's the next question. Because if I were a font, I would probably want to be not Times New Roman, and I don't think I'd want to be Arial either. Yeah. But I see your point. Yes, thank you. You're very kind. I'm a fount of information, apparently. Garen says, being Aussie, I do have dig drones, just more atmospheric style drones. Okay, yeah, you can certainly try different things, experiment with different sounds. Like maybe here's an obscure one that you might find might work for a particular song. Use a sine wave. That can work. Or maybe find like a church organ sound and just use the pedals sound, and use that as a kind of, that can certainly create a lot of atmosphere, because you can choose them between flute pipes or reed pipes for a church organ, and the reedy bass, big sort of like 32-foot long bass pipes are really, really cool for like a low pedal point, a low drone. So you could try something like that, or woodwind instruments provide a nice one as well. So you could certainly try those. Mika says left, right, orchestral placement. Sorry for the lack of specificity. Oh, there's a great word. Specificity. I like that. In fact, I think I might just make a record just called Specificity, just because it's a fun word. Left, right, orchestral placement. Are you kind of like, if we're talking orchestral, are you meaning kind of like having violins in the center with violas and cellos on left and right? Basses tend to be up the center, and then percussion tends to be kind of spread right across from left to right. Like you would maybe have timpani just kind of maybe left or right of center, and then bass drums, snare drums, and unpitched percussion on the other side. And then woodwinds, you'd have like the low woodwinds on one side and the upper woodwinds on the other. If that's what you're referring to, I see no reason why to stick to that kind of stuff. I mean, you know, if we're going to go back to kind of the early days of stereo. Wow, I whistled my S then. I rarely do that. The early days of stereo, you'd have like the band in one side and the vocals on the other, or you'd have drums all on the left, bass and guitars all on the right, and the vocal up in the middle. Now we don't tend to do that. We don't tend, you know, the bass tends to go up the middle, and the kick drum and the snare drum tend to go up the middle, and the lead vocal tend to go up the middle. And I think probably, if memory serves, the reason for that is because those are kind of like your most important elements, and they're the ones that you're going to hear no matter where you are in relationship to the speakers. So, you know, even if I'm down the hallway out there, I'm still going to hear the vocal and the snare drum and the kick drum and the bass very, very clearly. I may hear less of kind of what is panned hard left and what is panned hard right, perhaps. But, I mean, if I'm going down the corridor, then the sound is just going to go out and it's going to bounce around and it's going to get collapsed to mono anyway. So it kind of doesn't really matter too terribly much unless you're kind of in the kind of the apex, that kind of sweet spot, I guess. But yeah, experiment. I don't see why we should be traditional. Why not? Why not put the bass on the left? Why not put the bass on the right? Why not put, you know, guitars on one side and keyboards on the other? I've certainly considered doing such things when I'm mixing. Kevin says, I've written a pretty interesting kind of soft rock tune. Would love to hear what you would do on it. I'm a Sphere member, so maybe some collaboration opportunities. Kevin, drop me an email at Jonny at the website down below. So Jonny at jonnylipshamstudios.co.uk, and we can discuss a little bit more. And you can send me an MP3 of what you've got so far, and then I can think about how I might be able to help you. Be certainly up for helping you, for sure. For sure. DJ says, wow, I appreciate it. Thank you so very much. We are very welcome, mate. Very welcome. Very welcome indeed. Okay, what else do we have? Billy and Mika and Old School Funkasol, who is here, and I didn't even notice. Sorry about that, mate. He says, I'm here after spending several years living and working in the US. Not a fan of the higher tax system. It's Oscar night. Of course it is. Damn it. That's why our numbers might be a little low tonight. Oscar. Forgot about that. Good point. Yeah, things like presidential addresses, State of the Union address, and Oscar night, and, you know, a few other things like July 4th tend to make the viewership a little bit low. So yeah, there we go. Oscar night. That explains it. Thank you very much for that. Mika says, I'm not a fan of getting so little in return. Yeah, I kind of said, guys, we're not talking about politics, so let's not talk about politics. That's not why I mentioned the whole YouTube thing. I kind of mentioned it as kind of part and parcel as to why I've demonetized myself, because I'm not a US citizen. That really is it. That's the extent of it. I don't quite see why I should pay taxes into the US Federal Reserve and the US economy when I'm not an American citizen and I live and work here. That's it. So I didn't want this to be a discussion on tax because that's not my intention at all. And this is not a political channel, so can we not do that, please? Old School Funk Soul says, seems a trend for some YouTubers in the audio and tech are also making shorts, i.e. much shorter videos, but more regular frequency. Are you seeing this also? That's a good question. I have seen some of that going down. I still like doing live streams, and certainly I've not really, because of lockdown and things like that, and trying to homeschool and juggling, um, working for Presonus and running Jonny Lipsham Studios, and all that comes with that. Um, Something had to give, and what had to give was really doing my regular weekly videos, because even a 5-minute video takes probably about 2 to 2.5 hours to actually make. And so whilst the kids were at home, I did not have that luxury of being able to do that and everything else. So the videos had to be put on hold. But now my kids are back at school and things are easing a little bit here in Scotland in terms of lockdown. We've kind of moved back out of level 4 and into level 3. We're probably going to be in level 2 as of Monday. So things are opening back up again, and we'll kind of see what happens with that. But I am definitely going to be making the most of this opportunity whilst my kids are at school and I'm working here, to use that first kind of couple of hours of my day to make some short little 5-minute videos. Because I think those will be useful, short little 5-minute videos that people can, they can watch like 3 or 4 minutes of it. And that's fine. Yeah, that's probably what I will do in addition to Sunday Night Live. And then, of course, when there is a new version of Studio One that comes out, or a new major update for Studio One comes out, of course, I will do a video that kind of explains all of the new features, or as many as I can get into one video, the main features, like I have done since Studio One 3.5, which is when I started doing that. And I intend to continue making those kind of longer formats, demonstrations of new features for Studio One going forward. I'm also considering doing some Notion content, because I have not done any, and I have been thinking about doing that for at least 4 or 5 years. So I think I'm going to start making some short videos on Notion, but we'll have to see just how much time I have. But yeah. But that's a great little point that you make there. Full show. Font means container, including the mind of a smart individual with a seemingly unlimited supply of, in this case, music theory minutiae plus great stories. Thank you, Mika. Yeah, the music. Well, I have a photographic memory. Okay, I'm giving away my secrets now. I have a photographic memory, and I have a near perfect aural memory, which means I pretty much, in the high 90% of the time, remember everything that I hear. So, which was a great help when I was a student of composition and musicology and audio. So I did audio production alongside musicology and composition and arranging. That was kind of my music degree. It was kind of broadly in those specialty areas. I could have done performing, but yeah, didn't want to do that. So I wanted to perform for fun and perform for my, for developing my career as a professional musician. Didn't really want to have to study performing. So, but I was happy to study composing. I was happy to study arranging and musicology and audio, because, I thought that those were important, and they are. So thank you for that. So yeah, that's why I have all of those kind of music theory minutiae, music history minutiae, because it's just there. My brain is stuffed to overflowing with that kind of stuff. What is the theme of today's episode? There isn't one, really, other than I wanted to basically put out that announcement at the start about demonetizing myself. Because that's a significant change to how this channel is going to work going forward. And it means there's a lot less pressure on me. There's a lot less pressure on you, my wonderful viewers, who I love very much. You guys are awesome, and you guys are so kind, and generous and lovely, and I want to keep that going. I want to keep that relationship going. And so, and I didn't want anybody to be kind of hard done by regulations that are coming in with the way YouTube is going to be going and the way it's going to be working going forward. Changes to the algorithm, changes to how they deal with monetization. I didn't want you guys to be hard done by, especially if you guys want to super chat and donate money and stuff like that. I didn't want YouTube to kind of rob from either of us. So that's why I did it, to be honest. So that's kind of really the talking point. Mika says, after the DAW learning curve, pretty much the most asked questions asked by my students relate to learning how to use synthesizers. It would be cool to have more tutorials. It would. I agree. I don't have any. I have this. This is, well, it's not really, well, it kind of is a synthesizer. It's one of those Yamaha workstation keyboards from the 90s, basically. It has a whole bunch of very now dated 1990s sounds on board, and it has a 16-track sequencer on board. And it's 30-something years old, coming up for. And it works great, but I don't really have anything on synthesis. I think Gregor does, actually. I think Gregor has a whole bunch of videos on synthesizers. And, most of the guys over in Hamburg, actually, in Persona Software Limited, a lot of them are electronic kind of music guys. I know Gregor is, Arne Kaiser is, and Matthias, I believe, is also kind of into electronic music. So they do a lot with synthesizers, and analog synthesizers and that kind of stuff. Whereas that's not really my thing, unfortunately. But yes, I agree with you wholeheartedly, Mika. There is definitely a niche there to be explored. Starlight G Recording says, I like the vocal in the center. The main instruments in the center. I have some amazing low pipe organ on vinyl and his bass going down to 25 hertz. Yes, you will have that. If it's a sample of a real pipe organ, they will go down to 64-foot pipes, which is kind of round about 20, sometimes 20 cycles per second, which is pretty much the bottom of human hearing threshold. And they tend to be reed pipes for the most part, because they are that low pitch, they need a little bit of projection. So reed pipes tend to be, but they are loud. They are loud. I know this from experience because I have played a church organ like that, and there is a little story attached to that. I was in France. I was on tour, and we found this lovely little Catholic church. I'm not Catholic at all, but it was a beautiful building, and I loved the architecture. And I thought, I wonder if it's as glorious on the inside as it is on the outside. And so we tried the door. The door was open. We went in, and it was as gloriously beautiful on the inside as it was on the outside. But here's the fun part. It had a beautiful organ. And the church wasn't that massive. It was a good size, but it wasn't massive. But the organ was just sitting there with the lid open, waiting for somebody to go and play it. And I went and played it. I'm not really an organist in that sense. I know how they work. I know how to get a sound out of them, but I'm not really an organist in the kind of, hymnological sense. But I know a couple of things from Bach's St. Matthew's Passion, so I played a little bit of that, and that brought the priest and his assistant into the building. And they were just like, oh, you play real nice, you play real nice. I was just like, thank you very much. And my St. Matthew's Passion fairly quickly descended into John Coltrane's Giant Steps. And that's when they started chasing us out of the building. And one of the last things I did was I just opened that stop for the 64-foot reed pipe and stomped on that low C. And the whole place shook like there was an earthquake. It was awesome. And then we got booted out. And we had to get out of there before the police came. It was hilarious. But there you go. There's a fun little story about organs. Man, you managed to dredge that one up from like 1990. When was that? That would have been 1996. Good grief. Mika says, as per Starlight's question, if one uses mid-side mix stages, does one EQ the mid and the side separately, or EQ? I guess you could probably do one or the other, Mika. It's not necessarily something I do very often. Mid-side processing is not something I do very often. I don't tend to need it for the music that I work with a good 90% of the time. But yeah, I guess you can EQ the mids and the sides separately if you want to, especially if maybe you want to open up the sides a little bit more and give them a little bit more air. You can certainly do that. To the sides and not to the mids. That would be a reasonable application of mid-side processing, but it's a good question. Gannon says, do you have an easy way of coming up with a bridge in any type of song? Depends. I mean, particularly pop songs, can be quite formulaic and based on very simple rules. For example, if you are in the key of G major and you're basing your song around kind of like G, E minor, A minor, D7, and then you want to kind of go back to that because you want to use that same little set of chord changes for your chorus. Well, here's one thing you can do if you're in this. You could go to C, B minor, back to C again, and then to D, and then C again, B minor, A minor, and then you're into your chorus. So that's a really simple application of, it's only a little, 8-bar bridge maybe. 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. And then you're in. So you could do it either. There you go. So you could do it definitely that way, just kind of keeping it simple, just by going to chord 4, and then 3, and then back to 4, and then to 5. Maybe a little flat 5 there. Depends how jazzy you want to get. And then you could go to, I don't know, flat 3. You could go flat 3. 7 with 3 in the bass to flat 2 to 1. Depends how jazzy you want to get with it. I mean, you could just keep it real simple. Yeah. And then you'd be into your little chorus. So that would be a simple approach. You could go to the dominant as well. You could go to chord 5 instead of chord 4. So if you're in that, kind of a little bit trickier. But one way you could do that is by doing turning the chord 2, which is minor in the key of G, making that major. So. and then you're back to G again. So there's kind of like an abundance of different ways in which you can do it, to make a nice little bridge for your song leading into your chorus. I've done it different ways. I mean, sometimes there are songs where, you know, the vocalist may kind of find singing, maybe the chorus is a little high, so you have to find a different key maybe for the chorus. I've done this before, where I forget what the song was now, but she couldn't cope with the chorus being back in G, so I had to find a way to drop that down to F for the chorus without it sounding like it's going down. So so maybe you kind of do. And then you have to go. And that's kind of what you might do. So if I went back to that kind of C bridge, that chord 4 bridge that we were talking about earlier, go 4, then 3, 4, then 5, and then 6, 2 in the key of G, and then G minor, C7, and then you're in F. And then you're back into the key of G for your verse. So, a whole bunch of ways in which you could do it. Let's see. Old School Funk Soul says, I was a terrible notation sight reader as a kid. Yep, me too. Still am, except for chord lead sheets, but my good musical ear got me through UK grade 4. How about that? Awesome, that's very, very cool. I have a similar story. I did not really properly engage with music notation reading until I got to university to do my degree. Like you, I have a good pair of ears, I have perfect pitch, I have a good memory for things that I hear, and I could fudge my way through my exams that way and give the impression that I can read when really I'm not. I'm doing it from ear and I'm doing it from memory. Oh, you're smacking the mic again. So I kind of got away with it, but I knew that when I got to university to do my degree, I couldn't get away with it anymore. So I basically did a crash course in music notation for treble clef, for bass clef, for alto and tenor clefs. I thought, you know, screw it. Let's just learn all the clefs and how they work. And so that's what I did. And key signatures, how they work. Major, minor, relative majors, relative minors, circle of fifths. And then I got into more complicated stuff as I got into my degree course, where I started looking at relationships between different key centers by a major third or a minor third, and how to get from one key to another via that kind of relationship. So yeah, similar story. Ken Moss is here. Awesome. I think Ken is my only mod for tonight. He says, I lost track of time after dinner. That's cool. Not a problem. Mika says, when I say synthesizers, mostly mean software synths. Topics like ADSR, LFOs, modulators, MIDI control, etc., etc., etc. Yeah, the basics. Yeah, I agree. It would be great if we had those kind of tutorials. They will not be on my channel because I don't have the gear necessary to make such videos. See, Old School Funk Soul says, I was fortunate while in the States after one of the meetings to play a few bars on the legendary Mormon Tabernacle organ. Nice. You lucky person. DJ says harmonic solutions are beautiful in your performance because they show the joy creating. Yeah, I kind of made all of that up. Mika says easier for Johnny, isn't so easy for us non-perfect pitch recall models. It's really, you know what, things like aural memory, you can learn that. When you're young, when you're a kid, you can teach yourself perfect pitch. You can. It's only when you get older, if you don't already have it, or you haven't already learned it, or you haven't already developed it, when you're older, it becomes impossible to learn perfect pitch. But you can certainly learn relationships. You can certainly learn pitch relationships, and, you know, being able to work out, you know, kind of like, here's an A, and then, you know, that's your reference note, and then when you hear the next note, you go, that's a fifth up, that's an E, or that's a C sharp, or that's an F sharp, that's a G sharp, that's a B flat, that's a C sharp, you know, and that's, you know, and that's a D, C sharp, A flat, G flat, F, B, C, D flat, E flat, E. And so you can work it out all by relationship. I mean, I'm not looking even at the keyboard here. I'm just listening to the note and identifying it. You can do that by learning the relationship between one pitch and the next. So you've always got a frame of reference. You've always got a note with which to refer to, and then you just work out the intervallic relationship. So there's an A, there's an E flat. I know that because it's an augmented fourth or a diminished fifth, depending upon your outlook on life. And, you know, you can remember that interval by, you know, for example, Maria from West Side Story. Things like that. Or, you know, there's a major third, do a dear. Minor third interval there. So you can learn relative pitch. Anybody can learn that. Perfect pitch, it is one of those things where you either have it or you don't. But when you're a child, your ear and your mind, your brain is still growing and developing, so it is easy for you to learn perfect pitch, so that you go to that relative pitch place and then you go past it to just being able to, you know, completely spontaneously, you know, identify the pitch of a car horn or stuff like that. But you can absolutely learn it, and you can develop it. You can teach it by practice. Same with aural memory. You can practice what I call deep listening. And you can practice it to a point where you can make deep listening look like passive listening, which is what I am able to do now because I've been doing this since I was a kid. But with deep listening, you're listening with a great deal of intent to the content of the piece of music that you're listening to. So you're listening to, you know, what each individual instrument is playing. And you're listening to, you know, their pitch, you're listening to the chord changes, you're identifying the chords, you're identifying rhythmic phrases, you're identifying things that are kind of what I call hooks that you can hang your ears upon, that just kind of give you a quick and easy reference point for your memory to latch onto. So you can do that. You can develop an aural memory. I mean, I'm at the point now where, you know, I can be passively listening. So, for example, I can listen to something that's coming out of my speakers whilst I'm doing something else. So I can be over on the Mac typing up something or sending an email to somebody, but I'm listening to what's coming out of my speakers, and then I can just go and play it. Because I have developed it. Because I had no friends when I was a kid, so that's what I did for fun. I didn't really understand that you could go and play sports until I was about 9 or 10, and then I thought, oh, okay, I can play sports as well. That's great. But, you know, those formative years, I didn't really do much because I didn't really have much in the way of friends. So my friends were record players and tape machines and that kind of stuff. So you're kind of learning a little bit about my background and how I acquired some of the things that I have acquired. But there are obviously sacrifices. You have to kind of have no friends. Andy Arthur's here. Andy, good to see you, buddy. Welcome to the show. I'm glad you're here. Very glad you're here. Let's see. Garan says, I first heard a perfect pitch was back in the 80s when our keyboardists could tell what pitch. Yeah, exactly. Mika has to go for pizza. That's awesome. I hope you're much better at cooking pizzas than I am. I have a talent for burning them, which is why my wife won't let me do it anymore. Like hearing frequencies. Yes, you can teach yourself to hear frequencies. Yes, that is a great point, Billy. You absolutely can, and it's actually really important if you're wanting to work as a mix engineer, to be able to, really work on your ears so that you can hear specific frequencies. Be able to identify what 150 is, be able to identify what 500 is, be able to identify what 3K is, what 5K, that kind of sibilant area is, where the initial impact of the kick drum beater against the head is. Where's that? Where's that, what they call the click of the beater against the head? Where's that? That's kind of up around the 3K area broadly. Depends upon the tuning and the tension of the head and the type of beater. Wood beaters or plastic beaters will have more of a click than a felt beater will. But yeah, they tend to be around those kind of areas. So being able to identify those frequencies is really important. And there are you can Google it. There are ear training exercises that you can do. And there are websites that will help you learn to hear those frequencies. And it'll take some practice. You'll get it wrong quite a lot. You'll think, oh, that's 150. So you'll type the answer in 150 and you'll find it's like 300. But even if you are typing 300 and not 150, you're giving that as your answer, you're still in the broad ballpark of the low mids. So that's good. That's good. You're identifying low mid mud. That's kind of that area. But it's also, it can also be the body of a bass guitar sound as well. So yeah, that's a good point, Billy. Starlight says, I do the same thing on the piano and church organ. I learned notation the same way, and I learned all the clefs on notation. I learned it on a cheap computer over 40 years ago. I just learned it because I didn't know any better. I didn't know that really it's only cellos and alto flutes and some obscure woodwind instruments that use alto and tenor clefs. For the most part, most people use, trombone occasionally gets written in bass clef. Well, mostly is written in bass clef, but occasionally gets written in tenor clef. But I didn't really think it was important to learn, I didn't know that most of the time those clefs are never used. Viola players use alto clef and tenor clef interchangeably with treble clef, so they have to learn those three. Cellists have to learn tenor clef and bass clef for the most part. Occasionally they get up to treble, but for the most part it's tenor clef and bass clef. But yeah, I didn't know any better, so I just learned them all. Andy says, I'm a drummer. I can hear pitch very well. Cool. Helps with live sound. It most certainly does. I can tell where feedback is just by hearing it, or normally I can hear what frequency a vocal is having issues. You know what? That's really, really important and really essential to be able to, when you're running live sound, to be able to identify which mic is feeding back, what is it feeding back off, and being able to, dial that back quickly after identifying it is really important. And actually, for a lot of people, when they're starting out with live sound, they get disorientated quite quickly. They can hear the feedback, but they can't figure out where it's coming from. What's causing the feedback? Is it a microphone? Is it a pickup? Is there too much gain out of a guitar amp? Or and it's just kind of like causing the pickups to feed back off of that? Or is it, or the pickups on the guitar being fed back through the monitors because the monitors maybe are a little bit too loud? So being able to identify that stuff is really important. So good on you, Andy, for sure. Very, very important skills to have there. John Lake says, perfect pitch. We don't need no stinking perfect pitch. Yeah, you don't. You're right. You don't need it. It's useful. It's helpful. Sometimes it's not useful at all. But sometimes it is. You know, one of the things I have done in my career as a musician is I've been a musical director. So when you're a musical director and you're conducting an orchestra or you're conducting a choir, having perfect pitch is helpful because you are able to identify intonation problems and pitch problems with, you know, instruments within the orchestra or with the choir. But it's not essential. You don't, you know, it's not that in order to become a musical director, you have to have perfect pitch. No, it's just a helpful little bonus to have because it means that you're going to be able to dial in on those things really quickly. And you're going to be able to say it's not just the second violins, it's the person sitting at second chair, second violin, whose D string is a tiny bit flat. Now, string players have great ears because they are playing fretless instruments. So they, by and large, adjust their own intonation, and you don't need to help them out. But occasionally, with younger players, it's helpful to be able to say, yeah, you're A string, you just need to, you know, you're just a little bit flat. But the same, you know, when you're conducting a choir as well, you know, you can say, hey, you know, third alto, you're sharp. Listen a little bit more carefully to the others in your section. So helpful. Do we have any more questions? Because we got like 3 minutes to go because we kind of started about 3 minutes late. But just to say, for those of you that have just joined, you will notice the super chat button for the chat is gone. It's because I have demonetized my channel voluntarily. But you will see at the top of the chat that there is a pinned post with a link to my PayPal. So for those of you that do want to donate like you used to via super chat, you can still do that. I won't be able to call it out live, unfortunately, but if you do make a PayPal donation, when I get the notification, I will drop you an email to say thank you. For sure. I'll remember to do that. For sure, because that's going to become really important to be able to do it that way. But yeah, to those of you that have super chatted over the years, the last 6 years, I really, really, really thank you very, very much and really appreciate you. To those of you that haven't, I still appreciate you because there was never any obligation for you to do it. But, you know, for everybody that watches my shows, for everybody that watches my videos, for everybody that subscribes to the channel and hits the notification bell, and everybody that hits the like button, I appreciate you enormously because you're the reason that I'm doing what I'm doing right now. And I appreciate you more than you know. So thank you very much. Starlight says, I play tenor clef on a piece of music called The Glory of the Lord from Handel's Messiah. Yes. Yes, you would. For Handel's Messiah, would you be a cello player or a trombonist, perchance? If you're playing traditional instruments for Handel's Messiah, you'd be playing an instrument called sackbut, which is the precursor to the trombone. And that is written in tenor clef. Because it doesn't quite have the same register as the trombone does. But yeah, Handel's Messiah is awesome. I have directed it. I have sung in it because I'm a tenor, but I can also go up to alto register. So I've sung the alto parts and the tenor parts as well. And it's glorious music. It really is glorious, late Baroque, early classical music. Love it. Anyway, on that note, we're going to end the show there. Thank you very much to everybody that attended and the great questions. I appreciate you all a lot. Things are going to be changing here a little bit on the channel, but Sunday Night Live is not going anywhere. I will be back doing this show next Sunday, and I'm going to continue doing these even once we've moved into our new house and our new studio. So for sure. And I will be continuing to do my show with Jonny Guy over on his channel, sometimes over on here, which is Songwriting Simplified. If you've never been to that before and you're a songwriter, get yourselves along. It's either on the HST Home Studio Corner YouTube channel, or it's here on mine sometimes. Depends. But yeah, it's a great show. We have a lot of fun doing it, and you can get all your songwriting, composing, and arranging questions and orchestration questions in on that show. I mean, you can do that here as well, but that show is specifically for those kind of things. Anyway, thank you very much, everybody, for coming. I appreciate you a lot, and I will see you on Wednesday over on Jonny's channel. Cheers.
I know I'll never send, when all habitual dalliance will finally end. Then crustiness, my friend and foe, to oblivion you will go, belonging to tomorrow, belonging to tomorrow. Journey out to Paris.